My name is Elena Martinez, and at 38 years old, I made the biggest mistake of my life. No, not buying the lottery ticket that won me $65 million. The mistake was telling my family about it within 48 hours of discovering I had won. What happened next taught me more about human nature, family loyalty, and self-preservation than 4 decades of living ever could. If you've ever wondered whether money really does change people, stay tuned because my story will answer that question in ways you never expected. And if you're watching this from a situation where family dynamics revolve around money, drop a comment below and hit subscribe to see how I navigated the most challenging year of my life. Before that life-altering Wednesday evening when I checked my lottery numbers, my existence was remarkably unremarkable. I worked as a paralegal at a mid-sized law firm in Phoenix, Arizona, making $52,000 a year. Enough to cover my modest apartment in Tempe, my car payment on a 6-year-old Honda Civic, and occasionally splurge on takeout instead of cooking. I was single, never married, no children, and had long ago accepted that my life would probably continue in this comfortable but uninspiring pattern until retirement. My family situation was complicated in the way that most families are, but with an added layer of financial resentment that colored every interaction. My mother, Gloria Martinez, was 64 and had been a single parent since my father left when I was 7. She worked 2 jobs for most of my childhood, a fact she reminded me of constantly, as if I were somehow responsible for his departure and her subsequent struggles. She had remarried when I was 16 to Frank, a mechanic who was decent enough but brought his own financial baggage and 2 kids from his first marriage into our already strained household. My older brother, Carlos, was 42 and embodied every stereotype of the charismatic underachiever. He had dropped out of college after 1 semester, cycled through various sales jobs, and was currently on his 3rd marriage. Carlos had a gift for making bad decisions sound like brilliant opportunities, and an even greater gift for convincing family members to bankroll these opportunities. Over the years, I had loaned him probably $15,000 that I would never see again. Money for a business venture that failed, money for legal fees after a DUI, money for his daughter's medical bills that somehow never quite covered what he said they would. Then there was my younger sister, Nina, 33, who had taken a completely different path. She married young to a successful real estate developer named Marcus, lived in a beautiful house in Scottsdale, and had 2 kids in private school. On the surface, she had everything. But Nina had developed a strange competitiveness with me over the years, always needing to prove her life was better, her choices smarter, her worth greater. Our relationship had devolved into a series of humble brags and subtle put-downs disguised as sisterly concern. My extended family was equally complex. My mother's sister, Aunt Rosa, was perhaps the warmest person in our family circle. She had immigrated from Mexico at 19, worked as a housekeeper for 30 years, and had a heart bigger than her small apartment. Despite having very little, she was always the first to offer help, whether it was babysitting, cooking meals for sick neighbors, or slipping me $20 during my struggling college years with a whisper of, for emergencies, Mija. On the other side was my mother's brother, Uncle Raymond, who had made good money as a contractor and never let anyone forget it. He drove a new truck every 2 years, talked constantly about his investment portfolio, and had strong opinions about how everyone else should manage their finances, despite the fact that most of us didn't have finances to manage. My relationship with money and family had always been transactional in the worst sense. Growing up, I learned that asking for help meant owing something indefinite and unmeasurable. When I was 19 and my car broke down during my sophomore year of college, I called my mother asking if she could help with the $800 repair. She agreed, but for the next 3 years, any disagreement or boundary I tried to set was met with "after everything I've done for you" and specific mentions of that $800. I paid her back within 6 months, but the debt in her mind seemed permanent. This taught me to be financially independent to an extreme degree. I took on extra work, denied myself small pleasures, and built an emergency fund of $3,000 that I guarded fiercely. I learned to never ask for anything because asking came with strings that tightened around your neck for years. So I became the reliable one, the one who had her life together, the one who occasionally loaned money, but never borrowed it. It was exhausting and lonely, but it felt safer than the alternative. My one indulgence, my tiny rebellion against the practical, careful life I had built, was the lottery. Every week, I spent $20 on tickets, always the same numbers. My birthday, my mother's birthday, my siblings' birthdays, and the date of my college graduation, the day I felt like my life truly began. My family mocked this habit relentlessly. Carlos called it the stupid tax. Nina said it was statistically embarrassing for someone who worked at a law firm to be so financially illiterate. My mother sighed and said, if you have $20 a week to waste, maybe you should be contributing more to the family. But I kept buying tickets. Not because I really believed I would win, but because for $20 a week, I could spend a few days imagining a different life. A life where I could travel, where I could quit my job and write the novel I'd been thinking about for a decade, where I could breathe without constantly calculating whether I could afford that breath. The night I won, Wednesday, March 15th, started like any other. I had worked late on a particularly tedious contract review, stopped at the corner convenience store to check my tickets, and expected the usual disappointment. The clerk scanned my first ticket. Nothing. Second ticket. Nothing. Third ticket, the one with my family birthdays and graduation date. The machine made a different sound. The clerk's eyes widened. He said, looking at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. I think you need to call the lottery office. My heart started pounding. What do you mean? Ma'am, this says you need to contact lottery headquarters. The prize is too large for me to verify here. I drove home in a daze, hands shaking so badly I probably shouldn't have been driving. Once inside my apartment, I pulled up the lottery website on my laptop. The winning numbers from last night's drawing appeared on the screen. I held my ticket next to the monitor, checking and rechecking, convinced I was making some mistake. 3, 16, 22, 29, 41, 47. Every single number matched perfectly. According to the website, last night's jackpot was $65 million. The lump sum after taxes would be approximately $39 million. I sat on my couch for probably 2 hours, just staring at the ticket, the website, the ticket again. I cycled through disbelief, euphoria, terror, and back to disbelief. This wasn't real. This didn't happen to people like me. At some point, I started crying, not even sure if they were happy tears or overwhelmed tears or terrified tears. Around midnight, I did what I now recognize as my first critical error. I called my mother. Elena? Do you know what time it is? Is everything okay? Mom, my voice cracked. I won the lottery. Silence. What? The lottery. I won. $65 million. More silence, then her voice changed completely, becoming higher, almost girlish with excitement. Are you serious? You're serious? Oh my God, Frank. Frank, wake up. Elena won the lottery. I could hear muffled sounds as she apparently shook her husband awake. How much? Tell me exactly how much. 65 million. But after taxes, about 39 million. Oh my God. Oh my God, baby, this is amazing. This changes everything. For all of us. That phrase, for all of us, should have been my first warning. But I was too overwhelmed, too desperate to share this impossible news with someone, to notice the implication. I haven't even claimed it yet, Mom. I just found out an hour ago. Okay. Don't do anything yet. Don't tell anyone else. We need to make a plan. A family plan. Come over tomorrow after work. Actually, no, take the day off. Come over first thing in the morning. We have so much to discuss. After I hung up, I realized I'd created a problem. I specifically asked her not to tell anyone, but I could already imagine the phone tree that would light up overnight. Still, part of me felt relieved to have shared the burden of this secret, this impossible reality. I didn't sleep at all that night. I researched lottery winners, and what I found was disturbing. Stories of bankruptcy, destroyed relationships, family members suing each other, winners who claimed they wished they had never won. One article was titled "The Lottery, a Curse Disguised as a Blessing." I bookmarked it, a growing sense of dread replacing my initial euphoria. By morning, I had 47 missed calls and 82 text messages. My mother, my siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, even my father who had been absent for 3 decades. The messages ranged from congratulatory to presumptuous to outright demanding. "Carlos, Mom told me. This is incredible. Call me ASAP. I have some investment ideas. Nina, I heard the news. We should talk about setting up trust funds for the kids. When can you meet? Uncle Raymond, your mother said you won big. Smart move would be real estate. I know some properties. Aunt Rosa, Mija, I'm so happy for you. Be careful. Money changes people. I love you." And then, shockingly, my father, Elena, its dad. "I know it's been a long time. Would love to reconnect. Heard about your good fortune. Very proud of you." I stared at that last message for a long time. He hadn't called on my birthday in 31 years, hadn't shown up for my college graduation, hadn't responded when I had tracked him down 5 years ago just to tell him I forgave him for leaving. But he had heard about money within 12 hours and suddenly wanted to reconnect. Despite my growing apprehension, I drove to my mother's house that morning. I needed to establish boundaries early, I told myself. I needed to make it clear that while I loved my family, this money was mine, and I would decide how to use it. I should have known better. When I arrived at my mother's modest ranch-style home in Mesa, Carlos's car was already in the driveway. So was Nina's Mercedes SUV. And Uncle Raymond's new truck. My stomach sank. So much for a private conversation with Mom. My mother opened the door before I could knock, pulling me into a tight hug that felt more possessive than affectionate. There she is. Our millionaire. She practically dragged me inside where the entire family had gathered. Carlos, Nina, and Marcus, Uncle Raymond, and his wife Patricia, even Frank's adult children from his first marriage, whom I saw maybe once a year at Christmas. The living room had been rearranged, chairs pulled in from the dining room to create a semicircle facing the couch where my mother guided me to sit. It felt less like a family gathering and more like an intervention or a trial. I was the subject, the defendant, and the prize all at once. "Okay," my mother said, clapping her hands together once she had settled into the armchair beside me, a position that felt deliberately elevated. "Let's talk about this blessing that has come to our family." "My blessing," I corrected gently. "I bought the ticket. I won." "Yes, of course," she agreed quickly, though her expression tightened slightly. "But family shares, Elena. That's what family does. And this is enough to help everyone." Carlos leaned forward in his seat, elbows on his knees, his sales pitch posture. "Look, I've already been thinking about this. With even a small investment from you, maybe $5 million, I could finally open that dealership I've been planning. You'd be a partial owner, make money back on your investment, and help your brother finally build something real." $5 million. He said it so casually, as if he were asking to borrow $50. "Carlos, I haven't even claimed the money yet. I haven't talked to a financial advisor or a lawyer. That's why we're all here," Uncle Raymond interrupted, his voice booming with the confidence of someone who believes his opinions are facts. "To help you make smart decisions. Now, I know a guy, excellent financial planner. He'll set you up right. But first things first, you need to take care of family. Your mother, for instance." All eyes turned to my mother, who suddenly looked smaller, older, and sadder. She reached over and took my hand in both of hers. "Baby, you know I've struggled my whole life. Working 2 jobs to raise you kids alone, never able to retire, never able to travel or have nice things. I'm 64 years old, and I'm still cleaning offices 3 nights a week." The guilt hit me like a physical blow. All those childhood memories of her exhausted face, falling asleep on the couch in her work uniform, missing school events because she was working. But underneath the guilt was a growing realization. She was weaponizing her sacrifice. "Mom, of course I want to help you. But I need time too." "Time?" Nina's voice was sharp. "Mom doesn't have infinite time, Elena. She's worked herself to the bone while you've been living alone in your little apartment playing lottery tickets. The least you can do is ensure she can retire comfortably." I wasn't suggesting. "We've discussed it. My mother interrupted, her voice taking on a practiced quality that suggested this had indeed been extensively discussed before I arrived. I would need about $3 million to pay off the house, retire completely, and have enough invested to live comfortably. That seems reasonable, doesn't it? $3 million. Carlos wanted $5 million. I did quick mental math, wondering what everyone else in this room was about to request. And the kids, Marcus, spoke up for the first time. We'd want to establish college funds for our children. Your niece and nephew. Probably $500,000 each should cover private school and university. Plus, Nina added, we've been looking at a bigger house. With your help, we could finally get the place we've always wanted. Maybe another $1.5 million. Uncle Raymond cleared his throat. Now, I don't need anything for myself, but I think it would be wise to set up a family investment fund. Something we all contribute to and share returns on. You could seed it with, say, $10 million and... Stop. I stood up suddenly, surprising everyone, including myself. Just stop. The room went silent. I've had this money for less than 24 hours. I haven't even claimed it yet. And you've all already decided how to spend nearly half of it. We're just trying to help, Carlos said, his tone injured. Help? You want $5 million for another business idea, Carlos. How many of your business ideas have I already funded? How much of the money I loaned you have you paid back? His face reddened. That's different. Those were small amounts. This is real money now. It's real money that I won. Not we. I. My mother stood up, her expression hardening. So that's how you're going to be? Selfish? After everything this family has done for you? Everything you've done for me? I felt something breaking inside me, years of accumulated guilt and obligation cracking apart. You raised me, yes. That's what parents are supposed to do. That doesn't mean I owe you millions of $30 years later. How dare you, she whispered, and I saw actual tears forming in her eyes. Real or performed, I couldn't tell anymore. I sacrificed everything for you kids. I know you did, Mom. And I appreciate it. But your sacrifice doesn't entitle you to my lottery winnings. Family shares, Uncle Raymond declared, standing up as if his physical presence added weight to his words. That's how we were raised. You help your family. If you don't understand that, then maybe you're not the person we thought you were. Maybe I'm not, I said quietly, grabbing my purse. I need to leave. I need to think. If you walk out that door, my mother said, her voice cold in a way I'd never heard before, don't expect to be welcomed back. I paused, hand on the doorknob, and turned back to face her. Are you really giving me an ultimatum? Hand over millions of dollars or lose my family? She didn't answer, but her expression said everything. I left. The drive home was a blur of tears and shaking hands. I pulled over twice, once to cry so hard I couldn't see the road, and once to throw up in a gas station parking lot. The phone started ringing before I even got back to my apartment. I turned it off. For 3 days, I became a hermit. I called in sick to work, unplugged my phone, and tried to process what had happened. The money that should have been a blessing had instantly become a curse, a wedge driven into every family relationship I had. I hadn't even claimed the prize yet, and I'd already lost my family over it. On the 4th day, I finally turned my phone back on. 93 missed calls. Hundreds of text messages. The messages had evolved from demanding to angry to pleading to vicious. Carlos, you're unbelievable. Mom is crying because of you. Nina, I always knew you were selfish, but this is a new low. Choosing money over family. Uncle Raymond, you'll regret this. Family is all you have in this world. My mother, I don't know her anymore. But buried among the attacks was one message from Aunt Rosa, Mija, don't let them bully you. Come see me when you're ready. I love you no matter what. That message made me cry again, but different tears this time. Someone in my family loved me without conditions or price tags. I knew I needed help, professional help, to navigate this situation before it completely destroyed me. I made 2 appointments, one with a therapist who specialized in sudden wealth syndrome, and one with an attorney who handled lottery winners. The therapist, Dr. Sarah Chin, listened to my story without judgment. When I finished, she nodded slowly. What you're experiencing is unfortunately common. Money doesn't change people, Elena. It reveals them. Your family is showing you who they are when the stakes are high. But they're right that I should help my mother, I protested. She did struggle raising us alone. Should you help her? Maybe, if you want to and it feels right. Are you obligated to give her $3 million? Absolutely not. Parenting isn't an investment strategy where children owe returns. The attorney, James Morrison, was equally direct. Don't claim the ticket yet. First, we set up a blind trust so your identity stays protected. Second, we create a comprehensive financial plan. Third, and this is important, you decide under zero pressure what, if anything, you want to do for others. Your family doesn't get a vote. Can they sue me? I asked, voicing my deepest fear. For what? You don't owe them anything legally. Morally is between you and your conscience, but legally, this money is entirely yours. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked with James to set up the trust, claim the prize, and create a financial structure that would protect both the money and me. The lump sum after taxes was $39.2 million. Invested conservatively, it would generate roughly $1.5 million per year in returns, possibly more. I would never have to work again if I didn't want to. During this time, I maintained no contact with my family. The messages had stopped after I sent one group text, I need space. When I'm ready to talk, I'll reach out. Please respect this boundary. The responses ranged from apologetic to furious, but mostly, they respected my silence. Mostly. 3 weeks after I had stormed out of my mother's house, Nina showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole and considered not answering, but she clearly knew I was home. My car was in its spot. Elena, I can see your shadow. Please open the door. I'm alone. I just want to talk. Against my better judgment, I let her in. Nina looked different. Smaller somehow, less polished. She wore jeans and a simple shirt instead of her usual designer outfits, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She sat on my couch without waiting for an invitation, and I noticed her hands were shaking slightly. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I'm so sorry for everything at Mom's house. For all the messages. For making you feel like you owed us anything. I sat in the chair across from her, maintaining distance. Why are you here, Nina? Because I miss my sister. And because I realized something important. She looked down at her hands. I was jealous. When I heard you won, my first thought wasn't happiness for you. It was why her and not me? I've spent our entire adult lives trying to prove I made better choices than you, that my life was more successful. And then you win $65 million, and suddenly all my achievements felt meaningless. Her honesty surprised me. That's actually really honest. I talked to my therapist about it. Yes, I see a therapist. Perfect Nina with the perfect life sees a therapist because she's actually miserable most of the time. She laughed bitterly. Marcus and I are probably getting divorced. The big house I wanted? It's mortgaged to the breaking point. The kids' private school? We can barely afford it. Everything I've been bragging about is basically a house of cards. Nina, I'm sorry. I didn't know. How could you? I made sure no one knew. But watching everyone at Mom's house demand money from you, watching myself do it, I realized I was asking you to fund the illusion of my perfect life. And that's not fair. That's not what sisters do. We talked for 2 hours, really talked, maybe for the first time since we were children. She apologized again, explained that Mom had been calling a family meeting before I arrived, coaching everyone on what to ask for, how to present it. It had been orchestrated, a coordinated campaign to guilt me into sharing. What should I do? I finally asked. Part of me wants to help Mom, help everyone. But part of me feels like if I give it now, I'm setting a precedent that will haunt me forever. Nina considered this. I think you should do whatever feels right to you, not what we demand. If you decide to help Mom, do it on your terms, not hers. And if you decide not to, that's valid too. She's survived this long without lottery money. She'll survive without it now. After Nina left, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, hope. Maybe not all of my family relationships were doomed. Maybe some could be salvaged, rebuilt on honest foundations rather than manipulation and obligation. But I still needed to address the elephant in the room. What would I actually do with the money? I spent the next month working with a team of advisors, financial planner, attorney, therapist, and accountant to create what they called a personal mission statement for my wealth. What did I value? What would I regret not doing? What would genuinely make me happy versus what I thought I should do to please others? The answer became clear. I wanted freedom. Freedom to write, to travel, to explore who I could be when I wasn't exhausted from work and worry. I wanted to help people, but on my terms, not because they demanded it. And yes, I wanted to help certain family members, but in a way that didn't enable dysfunction or create dependency. I bought a beautiful house in Sedona, nothing ostentatious, but comfortable and mine. I quit my paralegal job and started writing the novel I had been imagining for years. I set up a charitable foundation focused on helping single mothers access education and career resources, a tribute to what my mother might have wanted for herself if she'd had the chance. And then I called a second family meeting. This time, I was in control. I rented a conference room at a nice hotel and invited everyone: my mother, Frank, Carlos, Nina, Uncle Raymond, and Aunt Patricia, and Aunt Rosa. I specifically didn't invite Marcus, since Nina confirmed they were divorcing, or Uncle Raymond's wife's extended family, who had never been close to me anyway. They arrived with mixed expressions: hope, wariness, curiosity, residual anger. I let them settle, offered coffee and refreshments, and then stood at the head of the table with a folder for each person. "Thank you for coming," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I asked you here because I've made some decisions about the lottery money, and I want to share them with you directly." I saw my mother lean forward slightly, hope flickering in her eyes. "First, I want to acknowledge that these past few weeks have been incredibly difficult. The way our family gathering went made me feel attacked and reduced to nothing but a source of money. It hurt deeply, and it made me question every relationship I have." Carlos shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Raymond crossed his arms. "But I've also had time to think about what I genuinely want to do, free from pressure and demands. So here's what I've decided." I handed my mother her folder first. "Mom, I'm paying off your house. The mortgage is cleared as of yesterday. I'm also giving you a one-time gift of $250,000 to invest or save for retirement as you see fit. That's it. No $3 million, but enough to give you real financial security." Her face cycled through emotions: surprise, hope, disappointment, and finally something like acceptance. "Thank you, baby. That's generous. Carlos, I'm not investing in another business venture, but I am paying off your child support arrears and giving you $50,000 to take a business course at community college if you choose. What you do with that opportunity is up to you." He looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. "Nina, I'm setting up education funds for your kids. Not $500,000 each, but $50,000 each that will grow until they're 18. It's enough for state university or a solid start at a private school if supplemented with other resources." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "That's more than fair. Thank you." "Uncle Raymond, I'm not giving you anything." His face reddened. "But I want you to know it's not personal. You don't need my money. You've made it clear you're financially successful. So consider this me taking your advice about being smart with my resources." He sputtered, but couldn't really argue without admitting he wanted money despite not needing it. "Aunt Rosa." I handed her the last folder. "You're getting $100,000, no strings attached. You've been the one person who never asked for anything, who loved me without conditions. Consider it a thank you for 38 years of being the best aunt anyone could ask for." She started crying immediately, standing up to hug me. "Mija, that's too much. I don't need. I know you don't need it. I want you to have it. Maybe finally buy a car that doesn't sound like it's dying. Maybe travel to see family in Mexico. Maybe just have a cushion so you're not working until you're 80. After the meeting, reactions were mixed. My mother seemed genuinely grateful, if a bit disappointed it wasn't more. Carlos looked like he was calculating whether $50,000 was worth being grateful for. Uncle Raymond left without saying goodbye. But Nina hugged me, whispering, "You did the right thing. Setting boundaries isn't selfish." Aunt Rosa was the last to leave, holding both my hands in hers. "You are wise beyond your years, Elena. Money shows who people really are, and you've used it to show who you really are, generous, but not foolish. Loving, but not a pushover. I'm proud of you. That night, I sat in my new house in Sedona, looking out at the red rocks illuminated by the setting sun. I had done it. I had navigated the impossible situation of sudden wealth and family expectations without completely destroying myself or all my relationships. Over the next year, I watched my decisions play out in real time. My mother did retire from her cleaning job and seemed genuinely happier. She occasionally made comments about how I could have done more, but they were half-hearted and eventually stopped altogether. Carlos took the business course and actually seemed to be taking it seriously. He called me one day to say he'd gotten a job as a sales manager at a legitimate company and was learning how to manage money properly. Maybe not getting $5 million was the best thing for me, he admitted. I would have just burned through it. Nina's divorce went through, but she seemed lighter without the burden of maintaining appearances. She downsized to a smaller house, pulled her kids from private school, and told me she felt like she could breathe for the first time in years. Turns out keeping up with the Joneses is exhausting when you're broke, she laughed. Uncle Raymond never spoke to me again. I made peace with that. Aunt Rosa used part of her money to visit family in Mexico for the first time in 15 years, and she sent me photos of herself smiling wider than I'd ever seen. The rest she saved, telling me it made her feel safe for the first time in her life. As for me, I finished my novel. It probably won't be a bestseller, but that's not the point. I traveled to Italy, Japan, and Costa Rica. I volunteered with my charitable foundation, meeting women whose stories reminded me of my mother's struggles and helping them access resources she never had. I dated, made new friends who knew me as Elena the writer, not Elena the lottery winner, and slowly rebuilt a sense of self that wasn't defined by my family's expectations or my bank account. The most surprising development came from my father. 6 months after I'd ignored his initial message, he reached out again. I don't want money, his email said. I know I don't deserve anything from you. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for leaving, for missing your life, for only calling when I heard about the lottery. You don't have to respond. I just needed you to know. I didn't respond for a month. But then I did. We met for coffee, awkward and stilted. He didn't ask about the money. We talked about small things, his job, my writing, the weather. It wasn't a reunion movie moment. But it was honest. We've met a few more times since then. I don't know if we'll ever have a real relationship, but I'm open to the possibility. The experience taught me several crucial lessons. First, money doesn't change people. It amplifies who they already are. The family members who truly loved me continued to do so without regard for my bank account. Those who saw me as a resource revealed themselves immediately. Second, generosity from obligation isn't really generosity. When I gave money on my terms, it felt good. When I was pressured to give, it felt like theft even though it was technically my choice. The difference is intention and agency. Third, setting boundaries with family isn't selfish, it's survival. If I had given in to the initial demands at my mother's house, I would have established a precedent that my money was everyone's money. The resentment would have destroyed me and every relationship anyway. Fourth, not everyone will understand or respect your choices, and that's okay. Uncle Raymond probably tells people I'm a greedy, selfish person who turned her back on family. I've made peace with not controlling that narrative. Finally, the most valuable thing money bought me wasn't the house or the travel or the freedom from my job. It was the clarity to see my relationships for what they really were and the courage to rebuild them on honest foundations or let them go entirely. Looking back, I don't regret telling my family about the lottery. If I hadn't, I would have always wondered who would be there for me unconditionally. Now I know. That knowledge is worth more than $65 million. For anyone watching this who has come into sudden wealth, or who struggles with family dynamics around money, my advice is this: your resources are yours to manage. Generosity is beautiful when it's freely given, toxic when it's extracted through guilt. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't actually love you. They love what you can provide. Take your time. Get professional help, therapists, lawyers, financial advisors who specialize in sudden wealth. Don't make decisions under pressure. And remember that no amount of money obligates you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. My life isn't perfect now. I still have moments of guilt, still sometimes wonder if I should have given more to certain people. But I also have peace. I have relationships based on genuine affection rather than financial obligation. I have the freedom to be myself, to pursue my interests, to say no when I need to without fearing abandonment. The lottery gave me $65 million. Setting boundaries gave me my life back. Have you experienced family pressure around money, whether it's sudden wealth or just regular financial expectations? How did you navigate it? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, hit like and subscribe to hear more stories about the complex intersection of family, money, and boundaries. Remember, your worth isn't determined by what you provide to others. Your value is inherent. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and your family is to say no. Thank you for watching, and may you find the clarity and courage to honor yourself in all your relationships, especially the most complicated ones.